Good morning, first year, and welcome to week 3 of your home learning. I'm Mr. McDougall, and today I'm going to be talking you through this PowerPoint, these slides on microorganism growth and how they can cause disease. So we're going to be working today from booklets, the booklet pages 30 to 34. What I would suggest you do, if you haven't got your booklet ready, I would go and collect your booklet, turn to page 30, and have something to write with, because we're going to be working our way through those pages. If you have already completed the booklets on page 30 to 34, I would stop the video, I would look at the tasks on Teams and follow the instructions on Teams. But if you have yet to complete the tasks on pages 30 to 34, keep watching, and we're going to be continuing on from last week, where we were looking at microorganisms, the types of microorganisms, and if you can remember, those are viruses, fungus, and bacteria. So today we're going to be looking at how these organisms can grow and how they can spread. I should point out as well that if you do not have a booklet, you've only got a PDF copy on your computer and you can't edit it, just have a bit of paper handy and a pencil, and you can write and follow along as well. So here we go, we have the learning intentions for this week. As I said before, how do microorganisms grow? That's one of the things we're going to be looking at this week. We're also going to be looking at how we can calculate averages, ratios, and percentages to study disease. I know we all like maths, but sometimes in biology we have to do it. And these shouldn't be too tricky, and they're quite enjoyable averages, ratios, and percentages questions we can practice together. And the third thing this week is we are looking at what are pathogens and how do they spread. So in this slide, we're going to be looking at the bacteria. Bacteria is one of our microorganisms that we were looking at. If you remember, it is the pill-shaped microorganism with a little tail out the back. It doesn't have a nucleus, it has free-floating DNA. So that's a bacterial cell we're going to be looking at here in this slide. And they divide very quickly because they can duplicate and double. Now on this slide, you'll see at the very far left, this small one here, it's just a single bacteria. And just down at the bottom here, you can see at 0 minutes, there's just one of them. And in this slide, it's telling us, this isn't always the case for bacteria, but in this example, it takes 20 minutes for that one bacteria to turn into these 2 bacteria. So this has divided, and it has taken 20 minutes to turn into 2 bacteria. Now, as you can see, if this one on the left takes 20 minutes to turn into 2, then each of these will take 20 minutes to turn into 4. So what's happened here is this one has divided into 2, and this one here has also divided into 2. So it has become 4 new bacterial cells. And therefore, after another 20 minutes, you can see at the far end here, it is another 20 minutes, which has led to 60 minutes in total. These bacterial cells have doubled again. So if I look at the top here, this one here has doubled. This one has doubled into 2, and this one has doubled into 2, and this one has doubled into 2, and this one has doubled into 2. So you can see the process is continually doubling and doubling and doubling. So the bacteria, you can see, will spread very quickly and multiply very quickly, allowing it to grow over short periods of time, because those 8 will become, and then we think about how many will be after 80 minutes. If there's 8 bacteria now and it doubles, it will be 16. And those 16 become 32, and the 32 becomes 64. They just keep doubling and doubling. So let's do another worked example together. This is us working out how many bacterial cells there will be using a doubling calculation. So here's a worked example. We'll do this together. if a bacteria doubles, just one bacteria doubles every 20 minutes, calculate how many bacteria would be present after 1 hour, 60 minutes. So down the side on the left, you can see it's 0 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, and 60 minutes. So at the 0 minutes, we only have that single one bacteria just there. So imagine there's a wee bacteria. Here it is just here. I'll try and draw a wee dot. That's our one bacteria. So after 20 minutes, it's doubled. I did say this wasn't going to be the toughest maths in the world, so here we go. If we double it, it gets to, indeed, 2. So our cell here has now become 2. Just use an icon there. I'll just change the color. See that 1 has become 2. And then after 40 minutes, it's doubled again. So it's not 1, 2, 3. This time it's doubled from the 2, and it's doubled to 4. And you can see this one is doubled on the left, and the one on the right has doubled. You can see again, I'll maybe use a different color that you can see. This one is doubled down here to 2, and this one is doubled down here to another 2, totaling 4. So after 60 minutes, so the question is asking how many would be present after 1 hour, 60 minutes. Double of 4 is 8. Here we go. We've got our 8, and each one of these has doubled. That one's doubled to 2, 4, 6, 8. Excuse my terrible dots there. I'm sure you will. You can see this one is doubled to 2, and this one here has doubled to 2, and this one is doubled to 2, and then finally this one has doubled to 2 to get 8. So the answer therefore is 8 after 1 hour. Now in this example, it's very similar to the last one. Again, we're going to be using the doubling technique, that doubling each time. But the question has changed it slightly differently. So the wording has changed to every 10 minutes. If a bacteria doubles every 10 minutes, as you can see here, every 10 minutes, calculate how many bacteria would be present after 30 minutes. Just going to change that underlining so I haven't actually scored it out. There we go. After 10 minutes. How many bacteria would be present after 30 minutes? So again, at the very start, we've got 0 minutes here. At 0 minutes, we have 1. We've got if a bacteria. So you can see in the question here, it's asking us if a bacteria, 1 bacteria. Now if that doubles every 10 minutes, if it's doubling from 1, it will go to, good, 2. And that 2 after another 10 minutes will change to 4. It doubles again. 2 times 4. 2 times 2 is 4. And then it doubles again, so 4 times 2 is 8. Good. So therefore we know that if a bacteria doubles every 10 minutes, it would be present, 8 would be present after 30 minutes. Now if this came up in a test or a question, if you were asked this, just write out exactly how it's written here. That's the best way to do it. Don't try and work out in your head, you might make a mistake. I know I would. So write down the 0 minutes, and then the 10 minutes, and the 20 minutes, and the 30 minutes. If it's asking you to double every 10 minutes, just write the numbers out in stages of 10 minutes. Starting with 1, going to 2, going to 4, going to 8. Just double the numbers each time. So here's another example for you to try and get your head around this idea of bacteria doubling. Now remember, you will be having to answer these questions on page 31 yourself, so it's good to get an idea of exactly how to do it just now. So this question's asking us if a bacteria doubles every 20 minutes, calculate how many bacteria would be present after 40 minutes. So the key here is it's every 20 minutes, and if it's asking us an hour and 40, we know an hour and 40 is in total 100 minutes. So what would you do? What would be the first thing you would plan on doing on this question? If you were writing it down when we get to page 31, what's the first thing you want to do? So the first thing is writing down the numbers of time on the side. So starting with 0 minutes, and if it's doubling every 20 minutes, the next number you would want to have is 20 minutes, 40, 60, etc. And we'll see this on this slide just now. And this is exactly what I was just saying. In example 2, every 20 minutes we have the time down the side, 0 minutes, 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 60 minutes, 80 minutes, and 100. Then the arrow going over is discussing or determining how many bacteria there will be. So after 0 minutes, if a bacteria, so after 0 minutes, we have 1 bacteria. Now, after 20 minutes, that 1 bacteria, as you can see, just highlight it here. See, it's doubling. So if it's doubling, it will get to 2 bacteria. And then if it doubles again, that 2 times 2 times 2 is 4. 4 bacteria. Again, it's doubling. So 4 times 2, we end up with 8 after 60 minutes. Add another 20 minutes, we're doing 8 times 2, and it'll get us to 16. Finally, 16 times 2, 32 bacteria. So we know now, after 100 minutes, there's 32 bacteria. Okay, now it's your turn to try it. So, just like the questions we've just gone over just now ourselves, I want you to try the questions on page 30 and 31. So on page 30, there's an exact example of the kind of question we've just been doing. So the worked example is like that on the screen just now. It is worded slightly differently, so I wouldn't just copy what's on the screen. Again, it is just using doubling. And then you've got questions on page 31. Again, it's about doubling questions, but be careful of the numbers and be careful of the time. So give it your best shot. If you want to pause the video now and go to pages 30 and 31. Once you have, I'll tell you when to pause the video, don't pause it just yet. So if you want to try the questions on pages 30 and 31, once you've finished that, have a go at the numeracy questions on page 32. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through those numeracy questions with you once you've done those questions on pages 30 to 32. As long as you've done pages 30 and 31, that's the important thing. Okay, so pause the video just now. Okay, I'm sure you got on very well with questions pages 30 and 31, just making sure that you were concentrating on the numbers and the time that had passed. So I'm going to look just now at page 32 in these questions. So the first question is asking if to calculate the average number of people that have been affected. Question 2 is the simplest whole number ratio of anthrax to tetanus. We'll talk about what simplest whole number ratios are. And the third question is calculating the percentage of sufferers that have TB. So for questions 1 and 3, definitely we need to figure out what the total number of people that is affected. So we're looking at an average, and an average is always the number that we're looking at divided by the total. And if we're looking at the average number of people affected, well, all we have to do is add up each of the groups. So in each group we've got, the first group we have anthrax with 5, the second group we've got TB, the third group we've got tetanus, and the fourth group we've got cholera. So 5 plus 60 plus 45 plus 10, anybody's quick at maths, faster than me maybe, our total will be 120. And because there's 4 groups, all we have to do is divide that number by 4, which equals 30. So the average number of people affected in each group would be 30. Question 2 is calculating the simplest whole number ratio. So a whole number ratio is something that is a whole number. We can't use decimal points. It couldn't be 30.5 or 42.7. It would have to be 30 or 47 or something, just a simple whole number without a decimal point. Ratios are anything where we're comparing one to another. So say if you opened up a bag of sweets and 3 of the sweets were yellow and 3 of the sweets were red. You could say you had 3 to 3. 3 red sweets, you put 2 dots to say 2, so 3, 2, 3 sweets. But you could simplify that, couldn't you? You would divide both sides by 3 and you would get 1 to 1. You could do it like this, 1 to 1. But that's what we've got in this question. This question's asking us what's the whole number of ratio of anthrax to tetanus. So the number we've got there is actually, let's do it over here, 5 for the anthrax, and at the other side the tetanus is 45. So what could we divide both sides by to make it a simple whole number? If you divide the 5 and the 45. Okay, I'm going to divide both sides by 5. And if you divide both sides by 5, you should get 1 to 9. So you divide that by 5, you should get 1. I'll not even bother trying to draw it. Shall I try again? Yeah, let's try again. Okay, we're drawing it again. 5. Divide that by 5, you would get 1. You would divide that side by 5, you would get 9. So it's 1 to 9. Question 3, calculating percentages. So calculate the percentage of sufferers that have TB. So we look at the table again, and we find the table up here, and the sufferers of TB is 60. 60 sufferers of TB, but we know from earlier the actual total is 120. We had it over here, 120. And again, I've wiped it out, but it's 120. So to calculate the percentage, we know that it would be 60 people, the number we're looking at. I'll use black to make it clearer. 60 is the number we're looking at, the number we're interested in, the number of sufferers of TB, divided by the total, and we know the total is 120. And to get a percentage, we multiply by 100, because it's always 100%. So 60 times 100, 60 over 120 times 100 is 50%. Half the number of people that are suffering have TB. You can, I know that's kind of quick maths there, and I know it's sometimes it's a bit tricky, particularly ratios. It's not just first years, everybody up through the whole school always struggles with ratios. So if you want to go over that again or try and do other examples, please feel free, because ratios will always crop up in science. So we're now looking at page 33, and we've got a box here, and we're going to just look at exactly what our strengths and areas for development are with those kind of calculations. So I was just talking about the idea that the simplest whole number ratios a lot of people find tricky. I know I did when I first started trying to do them. So if you find those tricky, I would tick them in area for development. I'd tick that box. So what we're going to do is tick each box, whether it's a strength or an area of development, for, as you can see, calculating an average, calculating the simplest whole number ratio, calculating a percentage, and calculating cell growth. So if you find that you've got no problems with, say, calculating an average, you can just tick the strength box. If you struggle with simplest whole number ratio, you could maybe tick the area for development. If you're okay with calculating percentage, and then maybe you struggle with the cell growth questions, you need to have another go. Tick there. What I want you to do then is, if you have marked in areas for development, or even if you put strengths for all of them, talk about the next steps in learning. What are you going to do to try and improve your areas of learning? Whether it be practice questions, go over the slides, look at some other examples, look at the worked examples again. Whatever you're going to do, write down 2 points that you're going to do to improve your next steps in learning. Okay, if you are still working on page 33, I would pause the video just now and make sure that you've completed page 33 and before moving on to our next section. So we're moving on to pathogens now. We're looking at pathogens, what they are, and how they're spread. There's a lovely image there of lots of pink and green looking things, different types of pathogens that can move around. What are they and how are they spread? So here's a quick short video on pathogens and how they're spread. So we're going to watch the video and afterwards we're going to answer some questions on it.
All around you, on you, and inside you are tiny living organisms, too small to see. Microorganisms such as bacteria and viruses. Some of these are pathogens, which can cause disease. You probably have around 10,000 to 10 billion bacteria on your hand right now. Most are harmless if they stay only on the skin's surface. But if they are transferred into the body, they may make you ill. This is why it's so important to wash your hands. Soap and water is an easy way to remove all those pathogens from your skin. Coughing and sneezing can release a cloud carrying millions of pathogens and project them a long way. Viruses, such as the flu virus, can live on surfaces for days. So if you touch an infected surface and don't wash your hands, you can pick up the pathogen. Tissues can be used to help catch germs, which can then be thrown away. Hygiene is particularly important around food, which can carry dangerous bacteria such as Salmonella and E. coli. Keeping kitchen surfaces clean, washing hands before and after preparing food, and making sure food is cooked properly are all important ways of preventing infection. But sometimes containing the spread of a pathogen can be more difficult. If water supplies become contaminated, disease can spread quickly. Dirty water allows bacteria such as those that cause cholera and typhoid fever to multiply. This can be a major cause of death in developing countries with poor water supplies. Increased travel, the emergence of new pathogens, and resistant strains that can't be killed by antibiotics all make us more prone than ever to outbreaks of infectious disease. So the best thing we can do is limit the spread of pathogens in the first place with some simple, good hygiene.
So here's our definition of pathogens. Microbes or microorganisms that cause disease are called pathogens. Now, not all microbes cause disease. So I know last week there was quite a few answers that came in about the definition of microorganism being something that can cause harm, but not all of them can. But if they do cause harm, we call them pathogens. And diseases and infections can quickly spread if not treated carefully. I think we all know that at the moment particularly, but there's all sorts of diseases and infections that can spread if we're not careful. So using the information from the previous video, can you think of all the ways that pathogens can be transmitted? So have a quick think just now, and we'll look at some examples in the next slide. So here are the 6 ways. Did anybody think about any of these? So in the video where we looked at water, so any kind of contaminated water that's spread can cause diseases. Another one is touch. So particularly there you go in that picture, we can see there's the cold, the flu, and other things can be spread through physical contact, which is why when we're coming into the schools, where we're using antibacterial hand gel, and it's why we have to wash our hands quite regularly. Another one there is air. So any kind of aerosol, that's particularly bad at the moment with COVID-19. The main way it's spread is airborne. So it's through these small particles in your breath, and it's spread through the air. Animals are a big spreader of disease. It's a picture of a rat. So rats particularly spread all sorts of diseases. Sex, so there's a sexually transmitted disease, are spread through sexual intercourse. And finally, food. So a lot of food, if it becomes contaminated, if it's reheated, if it's out of date, pathogens can spread through food. Could you please fill in the top of page 34? So at top of page 34, there's 6 spaces to enter these answers, and the answers are all on the screen. Water, touch, air, animals, sex, and food. You want to pause the video and fill that in just now. And here's your next task. Task 2. So what I want you to do is I want you to access the relevant websites listed on the Teams page and fill out the bottom of page 34 of your workbook. And the bottom of page 34 is demonstrated on the screen right there. What I want you to do is look at 4 examples of bacteria, 4 examples of fungus, or a fungal pathogen, and 4 examples of a viral pathogen. As you can see from the Teams page, I want you to give 4 examples of each type of microbe. 4 examples, and also give 1 fact about each example. So these should be easy enough to find on the web pages that are listed on the Teams page. Okay, that's us covered everything that we need to look at this week. The success criteria: to know that you've been successful this week, you should be able to describe how microorganisms grow. You can predict the number of microorganisms that will have grown in a set time using that doubling calculation. You can use a set of data to calculate averages, ratios, and percentages. And remember, you've got that table to work out what your strengths and areas of development are and how you can improve these things. This is not just for first year. You will be using averages, ratios, and percentages all the way up through the school. So if you can get it now, you're sorting yourself a lot of problems when it comes to further up the school. You can also describe what a pathogen is and give examples and explain how pathogens are spread. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you've enjoyed this week's slides. If you have any questions, get in touch with your teachers through Teams, and I hope you have a good day. Thanks again. Goodbye.